When Mozart passed away, he was buried in a churchyard. A couple days later, the town drunk was walking through the cemetery and heard some strange noise coming from the area where Mozart was buried. Terrified, the drunk ran and got the priest to come and listen to it. The priest bent close to the grave and heard some faint, unrecognizable music coming from the grave. Frightened, the priest ran and got the town magistrate. When the magistrate arrived, he bent his ear to the grave, listened for a moment and said, "Ah, yes, that's Mozart's Ninth Symphony, being played backwards." He listened a while longer and said, "There's the Eighth Symphony, and it's backwards too." Most puzzling. So the magistrate kept listening. "There's the Seventh, the Sixth, the Fifth." Suddenly the realization of what was happening dawned on the magistrate. He stood up and announced to the crowd that had gathered in the cemetery, "My fellow citizens, there's nothing to worry about. It's just Mozart decomposing." A man who had previously been a sailor was very aware that ships are addressed as she and her. He often wondered what gender computers should be addressed. To answer that question, he set up two groups of computer experts. The first was comprised of women, and the second, men. Each group was asked to recommend whether computers should be referred to in the feminine gender or in the masculine gender. They were asked to give 4 reasons for their recommendation. The group of women reported that the computers should be referred to in the masculine gender because, in order to get their attention, you have to turn them on. They have a lot of data, but are still clueless. They are supposed to help you solve the problems, but half the time, they are the problem. As soon as you commit to one, you realize that if you had waited a little longer, you could have had a better model. Men, on the other hand, concluded that computers should be referred to in the feminine gender because no one but the creator understands their internal logic. The native language they use to communicate with other computers is incomprehensible to everyone else. Even your smallest mistakes are stored in long-term memory for later retrieval. As soon as you make a commitment to one, you find yourself spending half your paycheck on accessories for it. We were dressed and ready to go out for the New Year's Eve party. We turned on a nightlight, turned the answering machine on, covered our pet parakeet, and put the cat in the backyard. We phoned the local cab company and requested a taxi. The taxi arrived, and we opened the front door to leave the house. The cat we put out in the backyard scoots back into the front door. We didn't want the cat shut in the house because she always tries to eat the bird. My wife goes out to the taxi while I went inside to get the cat. The cat runs upstairs with me in hot pursuit. Waiting in the cab, my wife doesn't want the driver to know that the house will be empty for the night. So she explains to the taxi driver that I will be out soon. He's just going upstairs to say goodbye to my mother. A few minutes later, I get into the cab. "Sorry I took so long," I said as we drove away. "That stupid bitch was hiding under the bed. I had to poke her with a coat hanger to get her to come out. She tried to take off, so I grabbed her by the neck. Then I had to wrap her in a blanket to keep her from scratching me. But it worked. I hauled her downstairs and threw her out into the backyard." 2 guys were taking chemistry at the University of Alabama. They were so confident going into the final that 2 days before, they decided to go up to the University of Tennessee and party with some friends. They had a great time. However, they overslept and didn't make it back to Alabama until the morning of the exam. Rather than take the final, they found their professor afterward to explain why they missed the final. They told him that they went up to the University of Tennessee for the weekend and had planned to come back in time to study, but that they had a flat tire on the way back and didn't have a spare and couldn't get help for a long time, so they were late in getting back to campus. The professor thought this over and told them they could make up the final on the following day. The 2 guys were relieved. They studied that night and went in the next day for the final. The professor placed them in separate rooms and handed each of them a test booklet and told them to begin. They looked at the first problem, which was worth 5 points. It was something simple. Cool, they thought. This is going to be easy. They did that problem and then turned the page. Question number 2 said, "Which tire?" 95 points. Three sisters, ages 92, 94, and 96, live in a house together. One night, the 96-year-old draws a bath. She puts her foot in and pauses. She yells down the stairs, "Was I getting in or out of the bath?" The 94-year-old yells back, "I don't know. I'll come up and see." She starts up the stairs and pauses. "Was I going up the stairs or down?" The 92-year-old is sitting at the kitchen table having tea listening to her sisters. She shakes her head and says, "I sure hope I never get that forgetful." She knocks on wood for good measure. She then yells, "I'll come up and help both of you as soon as I see who's at the door." Two elderly women were out driving in a large car. Both could barely see over the dashboard. As they were cruising along, they came to an intersection. The stoplight was red, but they just went on through. The woman in the passenger seat thought to herself, "I must be losing it. I could have sworn we just went through a red light." After a few more minutes, they came to another intersection, and the light was red. Again, they went right through. The woman in the passenger seat was almost sure that the light had been red, but was really concerned that she was losing it. She was getting nervous. At the next intersection, sure enough, the light was red and they went on through. So, she turned to the other woman and said, "Mildred, did you know that we just ran through 3 red lights in a row? You could have killed us both." Mildred turned to her and said, "Oh crap, am I driving?" A couple gets married, and the girl's mother lives downstairs. The girl has never made love to a man before, and on their wedding night, when he takes off his shirt, she goes running downstairs. "Mama, Mama," she cries. "I can't believe it. He has hair all over his chest. I can't make love to him. It's disgusting." The mother says to her, "He's your husband. You do what he wants you to. Now go back upstairs." When the girl gets back upstairs, the man takes off his pants. This sends her running back down to her mother. "Mama, Mama, it's terrible. He has hair all over his legs." The mother tells the girl, "Look, he is your husband. You are his wife. You go back upstairs and do what he wants." The girl goes back upstairs, and the man takes off his shoes and socks. She looks down and sees that half of one of his feet is missing. She goes crying back down the stairs. "Mama, Mama, he's got a foot and a half." "You stay here," says the mother. "I'll go upstairs." Sam and his wife Rachel were playing golf at the club when she drove a 300-yard tee shot straight down the fairway. Sam said, "Wow, I have never seen you play this well before." "I took lessons," says Rachel. A couple of days later on the tennis court in mixed doubles, she smashes her serves and never misses a point. Sam said to her, "Wow, I've never seen you hit so well before." "I took lessons," says Rachel. On the weekend, they settled into a nice dinner at home. Rachel brings out the perfect plates of beef Wellington, and Sam says, "Delicious! I have never seen you cook like this before." "I took lessons," says Rachel. After dinner, she gives him that look, and they go upstairs. About 30 minutes later, Sam rolls over and says, "Wow, that was incredible, amazing, so hot, I want a divorce."